Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient.
You're talking with us today. I've been lucky enough to work with her a little bit in the past and get to know her, and I'm very excited to have her on the show today. So Sadie, welcome. Thank you so much.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
And if you would kind of give our listeners a really short biography of who you are and what you do and where you're at in the world.
Yeah, so my name's Sadie. Currently, I'm a graphic designer located in Provo, Utah. A little biography about me. I'm pretty young. I'm only 25, and I currently don't have a graphic design degree, but I have a graphic design business that is thriving. So it's still up in the air whether I'm going to go back to school to get that degree or just continue going forward with that. I absolutely love Disney. And I've been to Disneyland once a year at least for the past 10 years. So hopefully we can go this year. We're trying to feel it out and see what is going to happen. They just announced they're opening on July, I think 17th, but we're just waiting to see what happens in the fall and what's going on. But it would be really sad if I had to end that streak.
Yeah. Okay. So is there a debate Disneyland versus Disney World?
So I've only been to Disney World once. I like Disneyland better because it's a lot more compact. So instead of oh, this ride is in a whole different park, it's oh, this ride is just a couple of blocks away and distance wise. And then if it is in another park, it's literally across the street, it's not a far walk. Disney World is really frustrating to me because everything is so spread out. And I also don't in Disney World, you have to plan your whole day 90 days out. Now I think they're not doing that, but at least when I went, you have to plan out which fast passes you want to get that day 90 days in advance, and you have to plan out what reservations you want to get at what restaurant 90 days in advance. And it's just really frustrating because you can't just do things spur of the moment. So I like Disneyland better personally for the convenience of it all. But it's hard because Disney World has a lot of really amazing shows that I love. So it's up in the air because it's Disney World is probably a better value, but Disneyland is so much more convenient.
It's so fun. So do you have a favorite ride and a favorite snack that you get when you're at Disneyland?
We love the Matterhorn. My husband's a huge Disney fan too. So that's something we bonded over really early in our relationship. So we absolutely love the Matterhorn. And then our favorite thing to eat there is the Monte Cristo at New Orleans Cafe. Oh my gosh. That was the best sandwich I've ever had in my life. It was so good.
Oh, that is so good. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And I love that. Well, first of all, I love Pirates of the Caribbean, but it's great that whole quarter down there because you can get the beignet and you can get and the drinks. I mean, I don't really drink a lot of alcohol, and there's none at Disneyland anyway. But the non-alcoholic mint juleps.
I've heard those are good. We're very particular about Disneyland. When we go, we get all of the same food items. So we
never branch out. So I've never had
the beignets or the mint juleps just because we like the tiki room and Dole Whips. So we'd rather have that, you know?
Yes. Oh, you just got to spread it out because I like the tiki room is the hidden secret. Nobody goes in there, and it's so dark and quiet and not quiet, but it's you know, it's shady, and you can get a Dole Whip on the inside, so you don't have to stand in the big line. It's
in Disney World you actually can't take your Dole Whip into the tiki room also, which made me pretty mad.
Oh,
because that's the whole reason. That's half the reason I go to the tiki room is to have a Dole Whip.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's funny. It's so funny you say that because there's a place, I don't know if it's a nationwide chain, but there's a place here called Menchie's, and it's like a frozen yogurt place. And they have Dole Whips. I got one a few weeks ago. It's not the same, but
it's like a quick fix.
It was.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. It was fun. It was fun. I like that. It's cool. One of the things, I'm gluten-free, and so I was super worried the last time I went to Disneyland.
Oh, they
I
have
would not
tons of
find anything
options.
to eat.
My father-in-law's gluten-free too, so
they do. Oh, that's awesome. Gosh, that makes me so excited. My kids have been after me to go to Disneyland. I think the last time we went, my daughter was 3 and she's 8. So, well, I hope you don't break your streak.
I know. I hope so too.
I hope it can happen. And I'm excited for all the new rides and stuff. My kids are like super psyched about the
I know,
Star
it's
Wars
such a
stuff,
shame.
and
like they just came out with this brand new land, and then they just came out with this amazing ride. And then a month later, it was like, oh, we have to close everything, like shut everything down. No one can ride it. Like, so horrible, so sad.
Super sad. I know. And I've never been to California Adventures. Do you do that at the same time?
If we have enough time, we like to do like one park a day. So if we have like multiple days there, we'll do both. But like if it's only limited to one day, we just do Disneyland, because there's a lot more for us to do there, because we don't really love adventure rides like roller coasters and like the Soarin' ride. Like those are not like our absolute fave top priorities. So there's like a lot more for us to do at Disneyland. So usually if we just have like the one day, and when we lived in California, we had a pass for a while. And the main thing we would do in California Adventure, this is so funny. There's this part of the River Rapids ride that there's like a geyser that shoots up. And we would literally, like, you can sit on, there's like a little dock thing. You can sit on the dock and just like watch people get sprayed. And we literally would just sit there for like hours and just watch people get sprayed, because like they had no idea it was coming. So they'd be like, oh my gosh, like either they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's going to hit us. And then it wouldn't hit them, or they like would have no idea and it'd come out of nowhere and they'd be like soaking wet. Like it was just so funny.
Oh, that sounds hilarious. Oh my goodness. I have to say, you've definitely piqued my interest. There's a podcast I like. I haven't listened to it for a while, but it's called Crying at Disney. And it's great because they talk all about different issues about Disneyland. And the last one I listened to was near Halloween, and they were talking about the origins of the Haunted Mansion and the graveyard that's next to it, and how some of the gravestones have workers' names who worked really hard on Disneyland back when it was built. And they just in tribute to them, they put a gravestone.
That's so cool. I'll have to listen to that podcast.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. Well, I'm so excited to have you on Resilient, because it sounds like you've definitely have a time in your life when you have felt that you were resilient. Can you speak to that? Is there anything that you've had to persevere through?
Yeah, I hope this is an interesting story to people. I think it's an interesting story, and I came out on top, so that's great. So when and it has like a very unexpected ending. When I was in the 6th grade, I want to say, my mom got me a violin because there was orchestra class at my school for 6th graders. So we got a violin, and I decided that like this was going to be my thing. Like I'm the type of person, I have like a very type A personality. So like when I go in on something, like I go all in. At least like that's how I was at the time. So I got a violin and I started going to orchestra, and I had private lessons, and like I got like fairly good. Like I'm not going to like brag or anything, but like for a 6th grader, like I was advancing very quickly because I had the extra help from my private lessons teacher. And I was in orchestra every day and I practiced every day. So like I was advancing more quickly than my classmates who didn't have those things. And I was very privileged in that way. My mom paid for all of those lessons, and like I loved it, and it was just awesome. So by the time I was in about 8th grade, I had really like committed to being a music major in college, already in 8th grade. I was like, I know this is what I want to do with my life, which is so ridiculous. But like, I was all in. Okay. And I knew that if I was going to be all in, I needed to be like all in for the rest of my life. So I was like, okay, we're doing this. I'm going to be a music major. I'm taking private lessons. I'm in orchestra. And one of the things that happened, this is like the first thing that happened on the way, like to like sort of like overcoming or whatever. When I was in 7th grade, I was able to advance to the 8th grade orchestra and just like skip the 7th grade orchestra altogether because I had those private lessons. So I was like a little bit better. And that was like, I was so happy about it. And like, I couldn't believe that I was that good. And then in 8th grade, the teacher, instead of advancing me to 9th grade with like all of my peers, she kept me in the 8th grade orchestra. And there were some other 7th graders that had previously been in the 8th grade orchestra that got to go to the 9th grade orchestra. Does that make sense? So like other people got to advance, but I was like the only one that I didn't get to advance. And that was like really hard for me. I was like, but wait, like I'm good. Like you told me I was good at this and I practice all the time. And like, I just don't understand why I don't get to. And she said it was so that I could like lead the orchestra, which is like looking back, like it probably was, you know, like I probably was like good. So she wanted like a strong player in the middle orchestra. But at the time I was like, I don't get this. I don't understand. Like, I'm going to prove it to you that like, I'm good and you should have advanced me because like, I'm really good. So I decided that year, if you were in 8th or 9th grade, and it's at a junior high. So it was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. 9th grade was not in high school, it was in junior high. If you were in 8th or 9th grade, you could do an honors project. And music was one of them. So I was like, okay, like I'm doing this. I'm dedicating my life to this. I am going to practice every single day for multiple hours a day so that I can do this. So one of the things we had to do was we had to learn all of the scales. And then another thing we had to do was memorize a piece and perform it for the community and then like a panel of teachers. So because I had like a little bit of a riff with the actual orchestra teacher, there was a history teacher that played the violin for the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. She was in like the orchestra at Temple Square. So I like got approval for her to be my mentor for my honors project because like I was kind of mad, I think, at the actual orchestra teacher for not letting me advance. And the history teacher really liked me and like it all seemed great. And I like at this point, I would wake up at 5 a.m. every single morning to go to my basement and practice while everyone else was asleep before I would even like get ready. Like literally the first thing I would do is like go practice my violin for 2 hours in the morning. I was like committed to this and I would write every single thing down that I did. I would write down like, this is exactly what I did. This is what I struggled with. This is what I'm going to do to fix it. Like I had this whole journal that was like dedicated to this. And like the project that we did only had to be like 10 hours, right? But obviously I was going to spend more time on it because like it takes more than 10 hours to master a piece of music. So I would practice for 2 hours in the morning and then I would have orchestra during school, which was about an hour. And then I would practice for 2 hours after school and I would just like stay at the school to practice. So like immediately after school, the first thing I did was I would go and practice my violin. So at that point in my life, I was practicing for about 5 hours a day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy. And all of my friends were like I would tell my friends like, okay, like I have to go practice. So like, if you want to hang out with me, like that's fine, but you just have to listen to me practice because this is what I have to do. And it would get to the point where like my family would come over for like Sunday dinner, like my older brothers who were, my older brother that was married and out of the house. And like, they would want to hang out with me. And I was like, no, like I can't, I really have to practice right now. Like I was sacrificing a lot of things for my violin. So anyway, back to the history teacher. So one of the things that we had to do as part of the project was meet with the mentor on like a specific day. So me being an 8th grader didn't think like, oh, I should probably like double check this with the teacher just to see like and make sure she's planning on this, right? So I just like showed up in
Right.
her classroom without like double checking, like, hey, is this the day we're still meeting? And she got so upset. Like, I don't know what was going on with her life,
Oh.
but she like got very upset with me and was like, you didn't schedule this. You shouldn't be here. Like, this is not what we had planned. Like, it was just like, I don't know what was wrong. But that was like really hard for me because I was just in 8th grade, right? Like,
Oh my gosh. Right.
yeah.
Right. It sounds like it was way out of proportion.
It was,
to
and it
just
wasn't even
getting
like
the
a wrong date. It was on the
Oh my
schedule. Like
goodness.
it said on the piece of paper I had given her at the beginning of the year.
Really?
This is the date that we're going to meet. So
Whoa.
it was so weird.
That
Like
sounds super
this teacher,
unreasonable,
like
but
looking back, like she was just like a little bit crazy. There was an experience we had with her outside of this, just in the history class, where we had to do like current events. So like if you were assigned to do a current event that week, you could go and like present in front of the class for like extra credit. And one time this kid in the class went up and he said, so I have a story, a current event about teachers being on Facebook during class. And one of the things you had to do when you presented it was like relate it to a real world scenario. So the kid said, this is so bad. He was like, and this relates to us because you do this all the time. And she flipped out. Like,
oh my gosh.
like just like started screaming at us and like, you think I do this all the time? You don't appreciate it. Like it was so bad. So bad. Anyway, so I had practiced the piece and for 5 hours, I was playing for 5 hours a day. I was probably practicing for 4 to 5 hours on the piece every single day. And at the end of the year, when it came time to present to the like panel of teachers that were on like the music board, I got like halfway through the piece and like choked. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, I just forgot a line and like totally messed up. And like, it just was not fun. So I got through it. I eventually got back on track in the piece and like my mom was there, which was really good. And so like afterward, my mom was like, let's just go shopping. Like it's going to be fine. But we saw the teacher afterward that was my mentor. And I guess she was still like harboring some like bad feelings for me. I don't know. But like, instead of her saying, hey, I know that was really hard. And like, I'm really proud of you. Right. She didn't say that at all. What she said, she came to me and she was like, I knew you weren't ready to perform that piece. I know, right? And you're going to get your plaque to prove that you did the honors project. So don't worry about it. It was horrible. Like I could not believe she said that. Well, who says that to an 8th grader? That just like did this really scary thing.
I know that people have other things in their lives, but that
it was
so
really
not okay.
Really heartbreaking.
You.
So then like when I went to perform the piece at my recital, so I was the only soloist of the whole recital. So the recital was supposed to be like a group recital, but my teacher, my private lessons teacher, she said that I could perform it for part of my project because like I had to do it. So I might as well just do it at the recital she was already having. So I performed it perfectly. And the teacher wasn't there, right? Like this teacher did not even like go out of her way to be there. Okay. So like I performed it absolutely perfectly. Like she had no idea. Like it was like probably the best I'd ever played it. So like, that's like what kind of stings is like, why couldn't I have just like performed it perfectly like both times? But anyway, that was like,
of course,
a little bit heartbreaking to hear the teacher say that. And I think that kind of like stuck with me. Because when I did get to high school, I didn't necessarily take like a lot of steps back from the violin, but like I was getting to a point where I was getting just a little bit burnt out. Because like at that point, like I was still trying to practice for like at least 2 to 3 hours a day. Plus I was in high school. So like the workload was a lot more. And like
Right.
it just was getting to be like a lot. And I was in the high school fiddle band. So I practiced for 2 hours a day. I was in the fiddle band. I was in orchestra every other day for an hour and a half. So like I was still playing for like probably like 4 to 6-ish hours a day, which is a lot. So then my junior year of high school, I was in the top orchestra for our school, which was really cool for a junior. Like I was really proud of that. But at that point, I was still practicing 2-ish hours a day. I was in the fiddle band. I was in the highest orchestra, so the music was harder. I still had my private lessons material I had to practice. And then on top of all of that, if you're in the highest orchestra, it's called the chamber orchestra, you have to be a part of the musical. So just by default, everyone that's in the chamber orchestra is also in the musical playing in the pit. Right? So I know, right? Like on top of everything else. For that. So at that point, I was probably playing for 6 hours. Like no doubt in my mind, it was like 6 hours a day at least, right? And we would during the actual musical, like thankfully my teacher was like, we're going to do study hall because I know it's a lot. Like just do homework. We're not going to play, right? But like it just got to be so much for me. And I'm like a very uptight person. So like if I am stressed out, it's hard for me to relax. Like I'm very tight in my body and the way I hold myself. And that was coming through as I was playing violin. So it was really hard because I would have pain after playing for like 20 minutes. And the pain was so intense that I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. You know, like this is physically hurting me. And like, I know it's going to be much worse in college. If I do decide to go down this path, like it's going to get worse in college. Right. And I went to my orchestra teacher, which is not the same one from junior high, thankfully. And like, I really liked the orchestra teacher from junior high. She was really nice, but like, I always will remember how she held me back. And I think that like affected me, like wanting to take a few steps back in high school because I was like, well, I guess I'm not good, you know? Anyway, so I went to the orchestra teacher in high school and I said like, this is really hurting me. I don't know what to do. Like help pretty much. And he was like so understanding. He said, you don't have to come to fiddle band. And that was like an extra thing anyway. So he said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to drop this. We're going to find someone to cover you for the musicals, the remainder musical performances that we have. Because it was like an every other type situation. So I didn't have to play every time, but like every other. And then we're going to switch you to an internship at the junior high with me because he worked at a different junior high I didn't go to. So I switched from chamber orchestra to an internship with him for like half a semester. So that way, like I didn't have to play, but I could still be like involved. So that was really good. And I was really happy that he did that. And I also had to drop my private lessons for what I thought was going to be a while. Like I thought it was going to be like a couple months. But like the whole thing really just caused me to like take a step back and think like, is this what I want to do? You know? And I had that experience in junior high that was not great. Right. And I had that teacher that like really didn't believe in me and really got mad a couple of times at me. So I just sort of had to say like, is this it? You know? And this is where it like takes a surprising turn because like,
oh my gosh,
most people want to hear the end of the story of like, and I pushed through it and now I got a music major and blah, 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 you know? But like, that's not what happened. And like, I'm proud of it. Even though I didn't do the thing everyone wants you to do, I'm still really proud of myself. Cause like, it was really hard. I loved it. I loved playing the violin. I loved it so much. I did it for like 6 hours a day, or at least I would try to. So I took a step back. I
Mm-hmm.
took like a couple months off. And what ended up happening is the only things I was doing throughout the rest of my junior year of high school and senior year was chamber orchestra and then the musical the next year. And then fiddle band. That was just once a week. So that was not a huge deal. But I dropped everything else. And that was like really, it was really difficult. But looking back now,
Oh, I'm sure.
like if I wouldn't have dropped that, like I probably wouldn't have met my husband. I probably wouldn't be a graphic designer. Like I probably wouldn't have a business that I love and own a business that I love. I probably would still have to practice 6 hours a day. So I probably wouldn't be able to like work or own a business because in college you're still expected to practice for 6 hours a day, even if you have like a full-time job. So there's just like a lot of things that like wouldn't be in my life if I would have continued down that path.
Mm-hmm. What a brave thing to do. I feel like that, I mean, it sounds like it really saved you so much mental strife and physical pain. But I mean, what an incredibly hard decision. I can relate because I've said this I think last time on my show. I trained to be an opera singer when I was young, and then I had my car accident and I lost my memory, and then I didn't have to restart from the beginning, but I relearned it, and I didn't have the joy in it. I was doing it because I was good at it and because other people expected me to do it. And it was really, I did it up until college when I started college, and it was so hard to decide, because everyone sees you and they give you praise for that. And it's
not to mention like all the money that has been invested, right? Like my mom invested so much money in private lessons, and she bought me a new violin, and like there were so many times where she had to drive me to those lessons, and she had to drive me to orchestra rehearsal, and she had to there was so much sacrificed from both of us, and like we really had to just sit down together and say like, if this is not the thing, like this is not the thing, and I'm really grateful that she invested all that money, because like some of the best memories of my life are my senior year of high school when I was in orchestra. Like I had so much fun. Like I made so many amazing friends, and I just had like the best time, but it was still like, it was really hard. And I'm sure that would be hard as a parent to be like, wow, like we just spent all of this money on this and you're not going to do it anymore. Yeah.
Right.
So, but it would have been like even more time and money to try and fix the problem. Right. Like at one point she had me, we both decided that I should go see like a physical therapist. And like, that was really hard for me because like, I felt like the physical therapist was making matters worse. Like it kind of was like irritating me in a way. And like, I wasn't super comfortable with someone like touching my body, and like, it was, so.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it sounds like it was a really
I mean, in the end it was. So it's like, it's not the ending that everyone wants to hear. It's not like I persevered and I practiced even more and I found a way around it, but it's like, I was able to let go and make room for better things. And I think that's like a really important thing for people to learn, is that if this is not the thing, it's just if you let it go, it'll make way for other better things.
Oh, that's so important. That's so important. And you don't know what's going to work until you try it. And you don't know. And it's really important to listen to yourself when it's not working. And there's a lot of lessons and a lot of grace that you can get from being able to really listen to yourself. Do you feel like that served you in the rest of your life? Like, have you been able to kind of tune into yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the things I learned from it So I said at the beginning, I used to have sort of a type A personality of like, I go all in or nothing, right? And for a few years after I had quit playing the
Right.
violin as seriously, that wasn't really me anymore, right? And like that was really hard for me to accept that like I had
Hmm.
kind of changed, you know? And like now I'm a person that's like, okay, like
Hmm.
let's do it. I'm all
Hmm.
in, you know? But I definitely had to listen to my like it's so much easier to listen to my intuition now of like, hey, you need a break, right? Like I know you're like you
Right.
just need
Okay.
to be kinder to yourself. So I think having a few years where I didn't have a thing in my life to go all in on really helped me in the long run because now I'm able to just sort of,
Hmm.
if I'm having a day where I'm overwhelmed, I'm just able to take a step back and take a break for
Hmm.
like a day instead of a couple of years, you know, and then like pick up where I left off the next day. And that's really
Right.
nice being a business owner as well, because like if I would have been a music major, and I would have had to practice, I would have had no choice, right? If you're sitting in an orchestra rehearsal, you don't get to
Hmm.
just like
Right.
take a break, right? Like the director is not going to be okay with that.
Hmm.
And not saying it's not a valid career choice, it totally is. I have so many
Hmm.
friends that are doing that right now and they love it.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, but it just wasn't going to be a valid option for me.
Hmm.
So I hope that sort of answers the question. I hope
Right.
that doesn't sound like I'm not like a driven person. Like I totally am. Um,
Oh no, very. I think that it's a real answer, and I appreciate that because it's really easy for so many people in our lives. There's for me, I mean, there's times in my life when I did the expected thing because I was expected to do it, and sometimes you just it kills your soul to do that, and it sounds like you listen
mhm.
to yourself enough to know that it just wasn't right. I'll learn, and the sooner the better, right? you
Oh,
know
for
now
sure.
you have
For
so
sure.
you have so many things that are open for you now because
Hmm.
you've learned that, and it sounds like it was really really hard to learn, but it wasn't wasted time. It was, I mean, it taught you so many qualities about yourself that are very resilient. I mean, you're persistent for sure,
Hmm.
and you're persistent in finding the right answer, not necessarily the rote answer,
Yeah, for
like
sure. And that's definitely something
I
else you
think
can
that's
learn is like your destiny is not like pre-written, right? Like if you've invested
mhm,
hundreds of hours in a thing that you really want to do, and then you decide,
mhm,
okay, like I don't think this is it anymore, and you feel like you've been settling, it's okay to move
mhm,
on. Even if you love it,
mhm,
right? I love playing the violin.
right,
I still would
mhm,
love it if I still did it. But it was just causing me so much pain. And I just really had to think like, am I never going to get to do this thing again? Probably not. You know, like I believe in an afterlife where
yeah,
like we can do all things, right? So I'm probably going to
mhm,
get to do it again, just not right now.
mhm.
So,
Oh, I like that. That's a great perspective. And you could pick it up at any time if
mhm,
you wanted to. That's the thing. You have ownership of it, and rather than just let that career path happen to you, you decided to do something
for
that you
sure.
really wanted. So how did you get involved in graphic
Oh
design?
boy, this is a little bit of a story. So in 2018, um, or I guess in 2017, November of 2017, my husband and I moved to California. And I
Mhm,
did not have a job because we had just moved there. So in beginning of 2018, I was like, okay, like I'm going to find something that I can do totally from home, and it's going to be awesome. So the first thing that I tried was Pinterest affiliate marketing, which if you don't know what that is, it's
mhm,
basically like advertising for products on your Pinterest page, and then you get like a commission if someone buys those products.
mhm,
So I did
mhm.
that for about like 2 months, and I got my Pinterest up to like 1.4 million views in 2 months, right? And I made like
Wow.
a
Oh
good
my.
chunk of change um, with
Mhm,
this third party company that I was using. Unfortunately, the third party never paid me that money because I was quote unquote breaking the rules. what's frustrating about it is I was following a method from a blogger who I had specifically asked, hey, I don't think this is right. And she was like, no, it's fine. Because what I was doing was I was pulling pictures from like the website, like from the source, and then just using that as my pin and like putting text on top of it, right? So I like asked this blogger that I was following like exactly what she did to make this her job. I was like, this sounds illegal. Like, this sounds like copyright issues. Like maybe I shouldn't do this. And she was like, no, it's fine. Like it's Pinterest affiliate marketing. It's totally different. Pinterest is totally different. It doesn't count. So then I like asked the company to cash out and they said, no, you broke this rule. And I was like really upset at the blogger because I had bought a course from her and I asked her for my money back. And she said no. Luckily it was only like $30. It wasn't like a huge deal, but it was just really frustrating because I had like specifically asked, is this illegal?
No kidding. Yes. Oh,
yeah. So anyway, from that experience, cool. I was just using like Canva at the time. But my husband noticed that like I really liked it, right? He was like, I think you have a really good eye for design and you really like this. So he told me that I should start doing like graphic design. And I was like, isn't there a bunch of like numbers and coding involved in that? And he was like, no, like, I don't know who told you that, but no, like you literally just have to like have an eye for it, right? So he downloaded Adobe Illustrator on my computer and he was like, this is like, he showed me like some basic things. And then I just like went on YouTube and started watching courses. And like, because I'm a type A personality, I was like, oh, like this is the thing, right? So I started practicing for like hours a day so I could get good at it. And I found out that I really liked it.
Sounds familiar.
Right? Like it's the same thing. Like this is just who I am. Like when I find something that I really love, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is what I'm going to do. Like this is going to be awesome. So yeah, I just started practicing a lot. And then I started an Etsy shop where I put up like some printables, which like didn't really take off, but like it was fun and like I enjoyed it. And then yeah, I just like started thinking like I have a talent in this, right? So I should probably start a business bigger than just like a little Etsy shop because like printables are not going to pay the bills. So at the beginning of this year, I decided to like get really serious about designing. So I started designing for brands and sort of looking into how you can translate like a brand's mission statement to their personal style. And like, I just kind of have like an intuitive eye for it. So yeah, that's kind of the story. Like, that's another thing too, is like that really like crappy experience of not getting paid by this company actually turned out to be like one of the best things that ever happened to me, because now I have like a really thriving business and I'm able to do what I love from home, you know?
Well, I mean, you just, you kept trying. You kept trying and you were trying to find the right thing. And it's funny, isn't it? How, like, it just, I mean, I don't know that I've ever met anyone who does exactly what they set out to do and is happy about it, right? Like, I feel like you have to really work to find it, to be happy with it, right? Like, I don't know, but for me anyway. So it sounds like you have a pretty strong support system with your family and your husband.
For sure.
Would you say that?
Yeah.
Now, do you think that asking for support from them is easy or hard?
I would say with my husband, like it can sometimes be easy, sometimes a little bit hard. Our dog is like a little bit high maintenance. He loves to eat everything. So like someone has to be in the same room with him at all times or he has to be in his kennel. So like sometimes that's really frustrating because it's like, oh, who's going to watch the dog, you know? But like we've learned through it and like he's been like really supportive. Like the whole time I've been like practicing my graphic design, he's been like, hey, you should start a business because I think you'd be really good at it. So like he was like the biggest nudge in my life to be like, just please go all in on this. Like, I know you're like you're like 75% of the way there, but like, if you just like turn it up to 100, Like you're going to do amazing things. So that's been really good. But yeah, like sometimes it's hard to be like, oh, can you watch the dog while I go work? You know, like it's not quite as like high maintenance as having a kid. But still like a little bit,
Yeah,
you
but
know?
yeah. So do you have time for doing things in your life that make you happy otherwise? What kind of stuff do you
I
like to
love
do?
watching Netflix. I know that's like so cliche. Um,
Oh
I
no,
know.
especially right now, 'cause it's all valid, right? So what kind of stuff do you
I
like to
love
watch?
Queer Eye. That just came out, so we've been watching that because there's a
Hmm.
new season. Um, I
Hmm.
also love Friends. That's not on Netflix anymore, but I've been like slowly buying the seasons because it's one of my favorite shows. Um, and then
Hmm.
also the other thing I do, this is like so nerdy. I play Animal Crossing.
No, I think it's super cute. I like it. I haven't gotten into it just because I recently upgraded to having a
Oh,
good
yeah,
phone.
yeah.
So like I mean I had a smartphone. My iPhone was
Mm,
like an iPhone 5, so so finally I have a good one. I just
yeah,
haven't put it on there yet.
it's really addicting. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's funny. But whatever works for
Yeah.
you, I think that's a great thing. So do you think that even though you said you are a former type A personality, do you tend to structure your days in a pretty strict routine, or do you try and kind of actively fly by the seat of your pants? Which
I
way do
try
you
to
roll?
structure it just because like I have so much on my plate with my clients that like I have deadlines to
Hmm.
meet. So I try to plan it out. But
Hmm.
like the nice thing about being a business owner is like if I get tired by like 3 o'clock, I could just be like, okay, like I'm done for today, everything done that I wanted to. Like I'm just gonna chill. So that's been super nice.
Nice.
My dog also keeps the day pretty structured. He's literally like our baby. Like he's like our everything. Um, he keeps the day pretty structured
Oh.
because he wakes up at like 7 every morning. It used to be 5 when he was a puppy. So like, thank you, Jesus. He changed it to 7, and I could not be happier. um, yeah,
That's
so he
helpful.
keeps me like pretty in line that way as far as like it's 7, we need to wake up and go for a walk. So that's super nice
Hmm.
because I'm able to like have a consistent wake up time. So I mean, it really
Hmm.
depends on the day, but
Well, and that's one of the things I imagine being a business owner also. It's easy to think in kind of an abstract way, like, oh yeah, I'd love to be a business owner and own and, run my own ship, but you have to
mhm.
make it happen. So it doesn't just, that's one of the benefits of having, going to a job every day, that's
Yeah.
outside your house. There's that all that external structure. I have a hard time with that. So that's been interesting for me in quarantine, having to have everyone else in because
Yeah.
my whole family's home now. So I was like I structured the days for me because I was writing all the time, and now
Yeah.
it's a little different. So
And my
you know
husband has been
I just
full-time
kind of
freelance since October. So like we're used to both being
uh-huh,
at home because I work from home at my day job. That's just like part-time, 3 hours a day, not a big deal.
uh-huh,
So like we're both
uh-huh.
really used to being home. So that was really nice when quarantine
Hmm.
hit because we were just like, okay, like this is pretty regular. Like this is just what we do anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice. That's helpful. Do you have any other hobbies you like to do? Do you listen to
Oh,
lots
I
of music
listen to
since you don't play
podcasts
it very much
all the
anymore?
time. Like literally my whole day I'm listening to podcasts because I have like a two-track brain. So talking to
Hmm.
someone is totally fine. Like if I'm talking to someone and having a one-on-one conversation, like I can focus and it's fine. I think I have ADHD. I'm not one of those people that's like self-diagnosed ADHD. Like no, like but I probably have it. I just
Right.
haven't. It's not like it doesn't affect my life in a way that's like, oh, I can't do anything. But I like have to be
Hmm.
listening to something while I'm working. Otherwise, like my brain goes off into like a crazy place and like I get bored and like I just have to like entertain myself at all times. So I am constantly listening to podcasts, and I'm always looking for good new ones.
Hmm.
So like send me all the suggestions.
Ooh, so what do you like? What do you recommend?
Um,
What podcasts are your favorite?
there is one that I've been listening to a lot called Committed. It's about relationships and like really cool stories about people that have, it's kind of like your podcast, but like for relationships. It's people that have been through something like pretty difficult and overcome it in their relationship. And it's like made them stronger. Let me think. Let me just pull up my podcast list really fast on my app.
I like that you do that. I'm the same way when I'm writing something. I really like, I mean, it's, I don't know, it's kind of like a way to entertain that lizard brain, you know, like the primal part that like, otherwise you'd be, you know, I would be worried
everything,
about,
right?
I don't know, all kinds of
Every
things.
Little Thing is a really good podcast. It's just about like random stuff. Like they literally will do like flamingos and like squirrels, like just random stuff.
Oh, cool.
Strictly Stalking is one I've been listening to a lot. That one's really good. I don't know if you watched A Million Little Things when that was on TV. It's still on. Like they have a third season renewed, but obviously not on right now. They just have a podcast called A Million Little Stories. I really like that one. Yeah, just like tons. I really like it when it has a story because it's something I can kind of like follow. I think what it is like, I've heard this about people with ADHD and like I'm saying, I don't have it, but I probably have it. Like if you don't have something else going on, like you cannot finish a task, you know, like, cause your brain will like wander and like just get bored and be like, I hate this thing I'm doing in front of me. I don't want to do it. I'm going to put it off till tomorrow and go do something fun. Right. So I like trick my brain by doing something fun at the same time to make sure I get the thing done. Yeah.
Well, maybe you're training your brain. So it's rewarding.
For sure.
That's a good thing.
And like, I love it. I love my work, but I still like to listen to something so it doesn't feel like work, you know?
Yeah. It makes it fun. Even if you're doing, you know, something that is super fulfilling, there's still sometimes you just have to slog through little bits of it.
It's so true.
You know, and that's totally reasonable. Do you have, this is a question I always like to ask my my interviewees just because it's interesting for me. I'm like a super coffee person. I used to be a super tea person. Is there like a particular thing that you have to always, like something that you like to drink, something that like is your go-to?
That's a great
What's
question. So we live in Utah and a lot of Utahns don't drink alcohol or coffee, right? It's like a religious thing. And we don't either. But there are soda places all over. It's like a thing. So do you know what Italian sodas are? Yeah. So it has like half and half and like a flavoring and a soda, right? So there's places all over that sell sodas that have flavoring and you can add like half and half and caramel and chocolate and like, oh my gosh, like so good. So lately, whenever we go to a place, so the place that we go to is called Swig, which is funny, right? Like, cause like the straw. Yeah. Very cute.
Very cute.
So lately what we've been getting is, Dr. Pepper or Coke. This is very controversial. I cannot tell the difference. People think I'm crazy. I just really can't. So we'll get either one of those with lime, half and half, and coconut cream. And it's so good. Ooh. Like it tastes like you're like on a tropical, like you're in Hawaii.
As I record this episode today, it's Juneteenth. So today I thought I would feature my favorite Black American author, living author. I met Sonia Renee Taylor at a conference that we both presented at years ago. Sonia Renee Taylor is the founder and executive officer of The Body Is Not an Apology. Her company is the digital media and education company that promotes radical self-love and body empowerment as the foundational tool for social justice and global transformation. Her work as a highly sought-after and award-winning performance poet, activist, and leader continues to have global reach. That was from her website. please look up Sonia Renee Taylor. You can see her amazing work as a poet on Instagram and on YouTube. And please pick up her book, The Body is Not an Apology.
Sometimes we have to start over. Sometimes we have to fight back. Sometimes it's all too much. Lost inside the black. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Sometimes we need to lift the voices of those who've overcome and expose the ones that made the choices